Sevhead Creative at sevhead.com presents the audio web series Epyphany, Born from the Sea, Episode 3, Chapter 5, Education. Thoreau was astonished by Epiphany's well-rounded understanding of the world. She grasped the intricacies of mathematics, physics, and chemistry more adeptly than many of his colleagues. It was clear she had absorbed the classics and navigated a wide array of global religions and philosophies. Yet her knowledge bore the mark of a child savant, a bookish familiarity rather than lived experience. When he questioned how she could know so much about the world and its history while living on a secluded island in the Indian Ocean, devoid of libraries or electronic communication, she simply replied, "The Gold Tower." For Thoreau, the Gold Tower was the greatest enigma of all, but to Epiphany, it was an integral part of her reality. So much so that she no longer questioned its existence. To her, it was like the sun, ever-present, glowing, and radiating pure energy and knowledge. She didn't take it for granted, but accepted it with a silent reverence and gratitude. From early childhood, Epyphany had spent countless hours in the tower's presence. She and Bliss would often sit back to back at its base, their heads touching, one palm pressed against the wall, the other resting flat on the smooth stone foundation. Bliss would tell her stories, or Epyphany would pose whatever questions came to mind. In this way, she gained unparalleled knowledge of Earth's past and present. Yet, despite her vast intellect, there was much about humanity that eluded her. She couldn't comprehend the relentless conflict and violence humans inflicted upon one another. Despite all they had achieved, they seemed to have learned so little. Thoreau, too, was at a loss for explanations. He empathized with Epiphany's confusion. In his work, Thoreau and his team of experts had devised solutions. Using technology, conservation, and collaboration, the entire population could thrive. Yet he was bewildered by the short-sighted policies of world leaders and disheartened by the greed, both corporate and individual, that permeated society. Humanity was steadily rendering its own planet uninhabitable. Despite this, Thoreau kept their conversations light, focusing on the remarkable imagination and innovation humans possessed. Though a shadow of doubt lingered in his heart, he assured Epiphany that he hadn't lost hope. One evening, after an exhausting yet exhilarating day of diving along the barrier reef, Epiphany surprised Thoreau with an unexpected inquiry. "Would you tell me about some of the women in your life? Have you been married? Is there someone waiting for you to return?" Thoreau was caught off guard. He was still coming down from the incredible visual delight of witnessing the diverse and vibrant sea life around the reef. His former life seemed far removed from the timeless world of Oojai. His world, now, was Epyphany and Oojai. He felt like a different man than the one she was asking about. He immediately thought of Saja. When he left for this voyage, their relationship was in a grey area. There was much about Saja that appealed to him, but in his heart, he knew it could never work. He tried to give Epiphany the short version. "I married my high school sweetheart before either of us really knew who we were. It lasted a little over a year. No children, and we had an amicable divorce. Over the years, I've confessed my love a few times, for the wrong reasons or to the right person, but at the wrong time, or for the right reasons but to the wrong person. I'm kind of married to my work, and that usually means there are always 3 in the room when I'm in a relationship. I haven't found a woman with whom I've felt a mutual balance of love, tolerance, and empathy." "So there's no one waiting for you?" "Well, she's not exactly waiting. It's complicated. We didn't officially break up. In her mind, it's a temporary separation." Epiphany tilted her head, staring intently, concentrating on every word, feeling like she was missing something. Thoreau continued, "We disagreed on some key issues. Then her work became very demanding, and I needed to get back to my research, so we never really resolved things. My ship was ready, so I told her I had to go. We had a frosty bon voyage dinner, and I left the next day." He hesitated, choosing to omit the detail that after a couple of bottles of champagne, their frosty conversation had led to one last, steamy night in Saja's penthouse apartment. "Do you miss her?" He answered truthfully, "I haven't thought much about her since I hit the open sea." This seemed to satisfy Epiphany for now, and their conversation moved on to planning further explorations in the days to come. Every day on Oojai felt like a miracle. For Thoreau and Epiphany, who shared an unquenchable thirst for knowledge and truth, this island was their heaven. The tribe, once wary, had come to accept him as one of their own, a gift beyond imagination for a marine biologist who could now talk to the very creatures he had spent years studying. Through these profound conversations, Thoreau gathered data that left him awestruck. Yet these revelations also brought sorrow. The animals shared stories of increasing hardships for those living in or near the oceans. Oojai had so far been spared from the ravages of chemical pollution, overfishing, and the deafening sonic disruptions that were robbing dolphins and whales of their hearing and communication. The busy shipping lanes disoriented sea mammals, devastating their breeding grounds. Companies like Pisces Corp, under the guise of feeding the world, were wreaking havoc on the planet. Thoreau couldn't shake the thought that this first-hand data could be the key to convincing the scientific community and world leaders of the urgent need for action, if only he could find a way to make them believe he wasn't a madman. Pushing these worries aside, Thoreau swam up beside Epiphany. "I have to tell you again, I've never been so happy. I can't imagine my world without you, Bliss, the tribe, and this island." As he treaded water, he turned to face her, reaching out to pull her closer. Gazing into her eyes, he said, "You are the most beautiful, intelligent, and mysterious creature on earth, and I am in love with you." Episode 3, Chapter 6. Ghosted. Epiphany felt a connection with Thoreau beyond words. Together, they were music and dance, each moment a fresh note in the symphony of their days. They moved through her world of water and sunshine in synchronized motion, like untethered souls racing through the heavens. It had been an incredible month of joy and laughter, their conversations intense and layered with a continuous undercurrent of bridled passion. 30 days of a life she had never imagined, spent with a man like no other. He had told her he loved her, and she felt the same. The depth of her love for Thoreau was unlike anything she had ever known, so different from the love she felt for Bliss, the tribe, or even Oojai. Their spirits had become intertwined. Then, with 3 words, her world unraveled. Bliss came to her and said, "He is gone." At first, Epiphany couldn't believe what she was hearing. She thought Bliss meant Thoreau had gone for a swim with Dali or was meditating in the cavern. "He has left Oojai. He has gone back to his world." Epiphany nearly fainted. Her heart slammed against her ribs, an electric shock of pain coursed through her, and her head felt on the verge of exploding. That unbearable agony was instantly followed by complete numbness, both body and mind. If Dali hadn't arrived at that moment, she would have sunk to the bottom of the lagoon, drowning in her despair. It took all her remaining strength to cling to him, wide-eyed, tearless, and blind, as he towed her back to the cavern temple. Epyphany had experienced loss. She had witnessed death, known grave disappointment, and endured pain. Bliss had always been there, offering the right words, silent empathy, comforting hugs, reassurance, and above all, unconditional love. The emptiness and loss she felt were more profound than ever. Though Bliss tried to explain, words could not melt the black ice that encased Epiphany's shattered heart. Her pain was twofold. She had lost Thoreau, and now there was a wall between her and Bliss. Bliss had secretly orchestrated Thoreau's arrival in Oojai. At first, she wasn't certain he was the one the tablets had foretold, but his time there convinced her that he was a likely candidate. With Storm's assistance, she subtly altered Thoreau's course, and the next day used an energy displacement technique to throw him off balance, plunging him into the water. Well before Thoreau's rescue, Bliss knew she would eventually need to find a way to return him to his world. What she hadn't anticipated was how quickly they would bond, or the intensity of their connection. Bliss had no means of warning Epyphany of the plan without arousing Thoreau's suspicions. Each day their passion grew stronger. Lost in the magical world of Oojai, they became increasingly oblivious to the challenges their love would face. Realizing she could no longer delay the inevitable, Bliss set her exit strategy in motion. It was the hardest decision Bliss had ever made. She had devoted her life to Epiphany's care and well-being, loving her as if she were her own daughter. The last thing she wanted was to cause Epyphany pain. But Bliss also knew this wasn't the right time for Epyphany and Thoreau. There was no convincing Epyphany that this was for the best. The planet's future hung in the balance, and sacrifices were necessary. Though Bliss couldn't foresee the exact outcome, she trusted in the karma of her decision. Epyphany was strong and intelligent. She would endure the heartbreak and transcend her loss. Bliss believed she would eventually fill the void with a renewed sense of purpose, one that would help guide their world to a better future. Epyphany and Thoreau had developed a cherished tradition of ending each day with a final relaxing swim around the cove. They had reluctantly accepted that some member of the tribe was always aware of their activities. So they weren't surprised when Dali approached them, asking to speak with Thoreau privately. Although Epyphany felt a twinge of annoyance, she agreed and told Thoreau to meet her back at the chancel. Dali asked Thoreau to follow him. Puzzled but intrigued, Thoreau complied, trailing Dali into the lagoon. As they swam further out, Thoreau was startled to see Bliss approaching, moving slowly as if she were walking on water. As they neared her, Bliss gestured for Thoreau to join her atop Storm's partially submerged back. "There's something I need to show you," she said. Thoreau noticed something different about Bliss. She wasn't her usual self. Throughout his stay, she had been transparent and direct, giving him no reason for suspicion. Yet this situation felt off. As they entered the bay and ventured into the open sea, Thoreau's curiosity turned to unease. Bliss turned to face him, her eyes locking onto his. "I know you and Epyphany are deeply in love, but I also know that even at the height of your passion for her, you haven't forgotten your differences. In moments of joy, you may have pushed aside your fears and doubts. But unlike Epyphany, you're aware of the real world. You are older, wiser, and you can't deny that hard-won wisdom. Do you truly believe the world outside of Oojai is ready for a couple such as you and Epyphany? Are you prepared to live the rest of your life within Oojai's confines? Can you ignore your nature, your desire to help humankind? These past weeks weren't a vacation from reality. They were a glimpse into an alternate way of life, a different path for this planet's inhabitants, Whether you like it or not, you're now a link in the evolutionary chain. You might even be the most important man on Earth at this moment. I don't know. But what I do know is that Epiphany isn't ready for you. And you need to find out what you're truly willing to sacrifice to be with her. Before Thoreau could respond, Bliss raised her hands, directing his gaze to the horizon. Your ship is ready. Thoreau realized how far they had traveled. Overwhelmed by Bliss's words, his heart raced and his mind spun. She had read his thoughts, seen into the depths of his heart. Though he had no doubt about his love for Epiphany, he had never felt more in love. He couldn't deny that he had been avoiding the harsh realities that awaited him. Seeing his ship brought memories of his former life rushing back. Time had seemed to stand still on Oojai, and he had felt so alive there, so at home among the island's magical creatures. But now, with his ship in sight, he was reminded that his world had its own kind of magic and mystery. There was so much still to discover. He had been at the forefront of scientific breakthroughs aimed at saving the planet, and years of research were beginning to bear fruit. He wasn't ready to abandon that. Bliss had made a choice. Initially, she had considered hypnotizing Thoreau and sending him away, but she quickly realized the futility of that plan. He was smart and honest, and both he and Epiphany deserved as much truth as she could safely share. She explained that she had developed a unique ability to create a mind cloud. Once Thoreau boarded his ship, he would head to the galley, enjoy a nourishing meal, and then sleep for 24 hours. With the help of the Gold Tower, Bliss had hacked Samu's mainframe, erasing all information related to Oojai and reprogramming the ship to return to its original course. When Thoreau awoke, he would have no memory of the past 30 days. This lost time would remain a mystery until fate or time allowed him to piece it together. He would continue his mission to save the planet from human destruction. Thoreau understood what Bliss was doing. She was giving him a choice while leaving him no choice at all. He longed to speak with Epiphany, but knew the painful futility of it. We thank you for listening to another installment of this series. We hope you listen, watch, share, and subscribe.